What if the world's most influential innovator vanished without a trace? What would happen to the future? On a warm Tuesday evening, as the sun melted behind the California hills and the SpaceX launch control team prepared for an announcement that was supposed to change the course of human civilization, Elon Musk was nowhere to be found. Cameras were live, reporters were buzzing, and social media trembled under the weight of global anticipation. The world expected a demonstration of Project Ether, a secretive initiative whispered to be more revolutionary than Neuralink, more ambitious than Mars colonization. But when the countdown to the announcement hit zero, all that appeared on the massive screen behind the podium was a single phrase in static white text: "Humanity isn't ready." No one spoke. No one knew what it meant. Then came the blackout. The feed cut. The crowd murmured. In the control room, technicians stared at frozen monitors. And within minutes, the internet erupted. Twitter crashed from overload. Reddit threads speculated about a hack, a security breach, a hoax. News anchors interrupted primetime coverage to report breaking updates, each one less informed than the last. Somewhere in the chaos, a push alert from a major outlet read simply, "Elon Musk missing." In a cramped studio apartment in Brooklyn, Emma Cole watched from behind her laptop, her coffee gone cold. The former tech reporter, once one of the youngest on the staff of a respected digital magazine, had been drifting ever since she walked away from the industry 2 years ago. But tonight, something pulled her back in. She watched the freeze-frame image of Musk's last known public appearance, shaking hands with the president just 4 days earlier, and noticed something in his eyes. Fear. Doubt. It was gone in an instant, but it sparked a wildfire in her gut. She remembered her own brief meeting with Musk years ago during her first big interview. He'd called her the rare kind of reporter who actually listens. That line had pushed her for years, until the industry's greed had driven her out. Now here she was, pulled back in by the same man's silence. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma opened a private browser and accessed a folder she hadn't touched in months, her archive of old source notes. She searched for keywords: Ether, Neuralink prototype, Musk private projects. Nothing new. Then she checked her email, her burner account she kept just in case. There, at the top, an unread message from an encrypted sender. The subject line: "You saw it, didn't you?" Inside was a short message: "You're the only one who can find him. Start with the red door." No name. No signature. Just an attached photo, a building in the Nevada desert with a rust-red steel door and a number stenciled above it, 314. Emma leaned back, heart thudding. She stared at the image, her journalist's instincts cracking through the layers of self-doubt and exhaustion that had coated her spirit for too long. She didn't know who had sent it, or why they thought she could help. But she knew one thing for certain: if Elon Musk was truly missing, and if this red door had anything to do with it, then something much bigger was happening beneath the surface. And she wasn't going to sit on the sidelines. Emma packed her bag. She booked a flight to Reno. As she closed her laptop, her old reflexes returned, the mental checklist of source validation, safety protocols, information flow. She would go quiet online. She would tell no one. She would follow the trail until it ended, or until she did. The taxi driver didn't speak much on the way to the airport, and Emma didn't mind. Her mind replayed the message again and again. "You saw it, didn't you?" She did. She saw something no one else seemed to notice. The message on the screen wasn't a failure. It was intentional. Humanity isn't ready. It wasn't a cancellation. It was a warning. The flight to Reno was mostly empty. The woman in the seat next to her wore headphones and never looked up. Emma spent the entire flight combing through her old notes, highlighting dates and locations tied to Musk's more obscure ventures. A 2022 patent for distributed neural pathways. A 2023 land purchase in rural Nevada. A one-time tax filing under a shell company called Solus Engineering. She landed just after midnight. The air was cool and dry. The desert night whispered secrets she didn't yet understand. She rented the cheapest car available, an aging Hyundai that rattled when it turned. She drove west on a nearly deserted highway, guided only by a shaky GPS signal and a gut feeling that had never let her down before. She reached the location from the photo around 2:15 a.m. The building was even more ominous in person, industrial, silent, forgotten. The red door stood out like blood against dust. Emma approached slowly. No lights. No cameras she could see. She knocked once, then twice. No answer. She reached for the handle. It turned. The door creaked open. Inside, the air was still and metallic. The corridor was narrow, with exposed piping and flickering lights. She stepped in. Her phone lost signal instantly. She kept walking. 50 feet in, the corridor opened into a large chamber lined with monitors. Most were dark, but one flickered to life. A familiar face appeared, Elon Musk, recorded, not live. "If you're watching this," he said, "then something has gone very wrong. Ether was never meant to launch without oversight. But they're moving ahead. They think I'm dead. Maybe by now, I am." Emma's breath caught. Musk continued, "If you want the truth, find the engineer who said no. He lives in the shadows now. He's the key. His name is Theo Ramirez." The screen went dark. The chamber lights dimmed. A low hum began to build beneath her feet. Suddenly, another monitor blinked on. This time, it showed a grainy live feed of a man being escorted through a hallway, blindfolded, flanked by guards. The caption read, "Neuralink, Restricted Sector, Buenos Aires." The screen froze. A message flashed, "The clock is ticking." Emma stood alone in the dark chamber, the weight of what she'd just seen pressing into her ribs like a vice. Elon Musk wasn't just missing. He had left behind a trail. A warning. A mission. And she had just become part of it. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma Cole wasn't born a fighter. She became one because she had to. Born in the late spring of 1991 in Wichita, Kansas, she came into a world already cracking at the edges. Her father, John Cole, was a construction foreman who disappeared 2 weeks before her 3rd birthday. Her mother, Lisa, floated in and out of jobs and dependencies, smiling only when the high kicked in. The only stable thing in Emma's childhood was her grandmother, Miriam, a retired schoolteacher with a back as straight as her moral code. Miriam raised Emma with quiet resilience, filling her small house with books, routine, and enough warmth to insulate against the chaos outside. Emma learned early that love didn't always look like hugs and fairy tales. Sometimes, love was a hot dinner on a cold night. Sometimes, love was silence when there was nothing helpful to say. She first learned about Elon Musk from a PBS special when she was 10. Her grandmother had recorded it, thinking it was about astronomy. Instead, it was a half-hour profile on the young South African-born entrepreneur trying to build electric cars and send rockets to Mars. Emma watched wide-eyed as the narrator described a man who had been bullied, underestimated, and nearly bankrupted, but still believed that humanity could do better. That idea, planted early, never left her. In middle school, Emma joined the debate team, obsessed with facts, arguments, and the thrill of discovery. She didn't have many friends, her clothes were hand-me-downs, her lunch always packed from home, but she had drive. At night, while her classmates played video games, Emma stayed up reading news blogs and decoding Wikipedia articles about AI, neuroscience, and quantum computing. High school offered a glimpse of the world beyond Kansas. She won a regional essay contest about the ethics of artificial intelligence and earned a scholarship to a journalism camp in Boston. There, surrounded by kids with last names that carried weight and bank accounts to match, Emma felt completely out of place. But when she got in front of a camera for a mock news segment, something clicked. She didn't stumble. She didn't flinch. Her words came sharp and clear. The producer pulled her aside afterward and said, "You've got a voice, kid. Don't waste it." Emma didn't. She graduated valedictorian, then worked 2 jobs through college at the University of Missouri's journalism program. She interned at local TV stations, freelanced for tech blogs, and taught herself basic coding in the dorm laundry room during overnight shifts. When she landed her first real job at TechReel in New York, she was 23, broke, and starving for stories. She got them. She covered startups, government contracts, social media implosions, and algorithmic bias scandals. But the highlight came in 2018, when she pitched and secured an interview with Elon Musk during a Tesla press tour in Austin. The appointment was short, only 15 minutes, but it changed everything. She didn't ask him about share prices or market trends. She asked him what he feared most about the future. He looked at her, surprised, and said, "The day people stop dreaming." Then he smiled. "You're the rare kind of reporter who actually listens." That quote became her signature. She used it in her bylines, her Twitter bio, even the email footer she used for pitching stories. For a while, it fueled her. But the industry changed. Or maybe it was her. Clickbait killed nuance. Truth gave way to trends. Editors began demanding outrage, not understanding. When one of her deep dive stories on AI surveillance was killed because it didn't generate enough engagement in early testing, she walked. No grand statement, no farewell column. She just quit. Packed her things and moved to Brooklyn, where rent was cheap and people didn't ask questions. She spent the next 2 years floating. Ghostwriting newsletters, managing a friend's podcast backend, occasionally scribbling in her journal but mostly avoiding anything that looked like purpose. And yet, even during her lowest moments, she never deleted the interview clip with Musk. She watched it sometimes late at night when the city was quiet and her mind couldn't rest. His words echoed louder each time, "The day people stop dreaming." She often wondered if he still believed it. Now, watching that cryptic message from the Red Door chamber, hearing his voice laced with urgency and fear, she realized something fundamental had changed in him. And maybe, in her, too. She'd spent so long running from the noise, from the pressure, from the weight of not being enough. But here it was again, truth knocking. And she still had the instinct to open the door. The message had mentioned Theo Ramirez. She remembered that name vaguely from a list of Neuralink researchers that circulated during the data breach in 2023. A quiet engineer with a background in cognitive mapping, Theo had published a controversial paper arguing against commercial applications of mind-to-machine interfaces. It had been quietly scrubbed from academic databases 6 months later. He hadn't been seen since. Emma searched old archives from her saved drive, digging up an incomplete draft of an article she had once pitched, "The Engineer Who Said No." It was rejected for being too speculative. But now, it felt prophetic. According to public records, Theo had last lived in Palo Alto. But a deeper search through an old Tor browser plugin revealed a secure forum post under the username t.ram23, tagged in Buenos Aires, 3 weeks ago. The post was a cryptic quote from Jorge Luis Borges, "I have always imagined that paradise will be a kind of library." Emma felt a jolt in her chest. It couldn't be coincidence. She checked flight prices. Everything direct was booked solid. She'd have to go through Panama City. She didn't hesitate. She booked the ticket, paid extra for 2 checked bags she didn't need, and started preparing. She gathered her old press badge, a set of burner phones, noise-canceling headphones, USB scramblers, and a single notebook with a leather cover her grandmother had given her before she passed. Inside the front cover was written, "The truth has a voice. Yours." Emma had forgotten that. She wouldn't again. On her way to the airport, she thought of her mother for the first time in months. Lisa Cole had died in a recovery facility in Tulsa 5 years ago. Her last voicemail was barely coherent, something about time being a funny hallway with no doors. At the time, Emma had dismissed it as nonsense. Now, after stepping through the red door herself, it felt like a whisper from the other side. In the airport lounge, she received another email from the encrypted address. This time, no message, just an audio file labeled Key 1. She listened to it through noise-canceling headphones. A distorted voice said, "Find the librarian. He's still loyal. He holds the memory of Ether." Emma didn't understand it, but her gut told her it mattered. She arrived in Buenos Aires exhausted and jittery. The city was pulsing with color and history, a strange blend of old Europe and defiant Latin energy. She took a cab from the airport to a cheap hostel in the San Telmo district, checked in under a fake name, and began mapping out the city's research and tech hubs. The Borges quote haunted her. Paradise will be a kind of library. Maybe it wasn't symbolic. Maybe it was literal. She visited 3 public libraries in the city, then 4 private archives. On the 5th day, she found it. A back room in the Biblioteca Nacional, closed to the public, but mentioned in a footnote of an old PDF linked to the Borges Foundation. Inside was a terminal, a dusty desktop with no Wi-Fi, no brand label, just a single login prompt. The username pre-filled, Theo.R. She stared at it, breath held. Then, almost without realizing, she typed in the password that had been looping in her mind all week, Paradise. The screen flickered. A file opened. Inside, a video. Not Musk this time. Theo Ramirez, gaunt, unshaven, eyes burning with desperation. "If you're seeing this," he said, "then they're already here. If you're seeing this, then they're already here." The words echoed in Emma's head as the video played on the ancient terminal deep in the hidden room of the Biblioteca Nacional. Theo Ramirez leaned forward in the frame, the flickering light casting sharp shadows over his sunken eyes and hollow cheeks. "They're not government," he said, his voice shaking. "They're not rogue scientists. They're something worse, people with power who believe they're doing the right thing. That's what makes them dangerous. Elon tried to stop them. That's why he disappeared." The video glitched. Emma held her breath. "You need to find the original data node," Theo continued. "It's the only way to verify what Ether was really built to do. It's not about memory storage or brain enhancement. It's not even about control. It's about rewriting the self." He looked over his shoulder suddenly, as if he heard something. "I have to go. If I'm still alive, I'll find you." Then the screen went black. Emma sat frozen, her fingers still resting on the keyboard. Outside the room, life went on. A school group laughed in the hallway, their voices distant and bright. But here, surrounded by forgotten paper and aging code, Emma felt the weight of something massive settling on her chest. Rewriting the self. What did that even mean? Ether had always been shrouded in myth. Speculation ranged from digital immortality to neural collaboration, a way to link minds across space. But Theo's tone, his urgency, it was clear. This was something darker, something never meant to be unleashed. Emma shut down the terminal and erased her digital traces, just like she had been trained to do in her early days at TechReal. She slipped out of the library unnoticed, then ducked into a cafe around the corner, where she ordered tea she didn't drink and opened her laptop. She searched every academic citation tied to Theo Ramirez from the past 5 years. Most had been erased or altered. But in a stray Reddit thread buried beneath 10 layers of conspiracy, she found a clue, Theo's username linked to a thread titled, "They're Already Inside You." The post had been deleted, but cached versions revealed a single IP address pinned to the message. It traced back to an old server housed in a data center outside of Mendoza, Argentina. Another breadcrumb. Another trail. Emma booked a bus ticket. It was a 12-hour journey, winding through vineyards, small villages, and open land where the sky seemed to stretch forever. As the landscape blurred past, Emma tried to ignore the ache in her shoulders and the anxiety tightening her chest. She kept thinking of her grandmother, who used to tell her stories about the Underground Railroad, about secret signs and people who risked everything to do what was right. Truth is often hunted, she used to say. That's how you know it matters. Mendoza was dry and quiet, nestled in the foothills of the Andes. The data center sat just outside the city, an innocuous white building behind a chain-link fence with no signage. Emma walked past it twice before she saw the pattern etched into the mailbox post, 3 small dots, then a dash. Morse code for S. A signal. She waited until dusk, then circled around to the back fence and climbed it, landing hard on the gravel. She stayed low, slipping between parked service trucks until she reached a rear door with a keycard lock. She tried her universal override tool. It had worked on 10 types of locks before, but this one didn't even blink. She cursed quietly, then noticed a motion sensor panel beside the trash bins. She waved her hand. Nothing. But when she stepped back, the door clicked open. Someone had let her in. She slipped inside, heart hammering. The hallway was dimly lit, lined with wires and humming with the low buzz of active servers. She followed the sound to a side room filled with racks of equipment. There, sitting in front of a console, was a man. Thin, with long dark hair tied back, wearing a worn jacket covered in patches. He didn't look up. "You're late," he said. Emma froze. "Theo?" The man turned. "No. But I know where he is. And if you want to find him, you need to see something first." He gestured to the screen. Lines of code ran across it, then images. Brain scans, neural patterns, and finally, a looping video. Emma watched in stunned silence as she saw Elon Musk, live, not recorded. He was lying on a gurney, eyes closed, wires attached to his skull. His lips moved, murmuring words too soft to hear. A timestamp marked the feed as less than a week old. "Where is this?" she whispered. The man looked at her. Patagonia. A compound controlled by a group that broke off from Neuralink in 2024. They call themselves the Shepherds. They believe human consciousness is a virus that needs to be corrected. Emma felt her stomach twist. Corrected how? He paused. By reprogramming the parts of the brain responsible for trauma, desire, conflict, everything they think makes us flawed. Ether was supposed to enhance perception. But in the wrong hands, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. Emma leaned forward. Then we stop them. We find Elon, we expose the truth. The man shook his head. It's not that simple. They've already started phase 1. Targeted experiments. Memory fragmentation. Emotional suppression. He reached into a drawer and handed her a small vial. This was smuggled out last month. It's what they're using, nano-interfaced neurogel. 1 dose and your brain starts rewriting itself based on predictive behavioral models. Emma stared at it, horrified. How many people? Dozens, maybe hundreds. Most don't even know they're part of it. They think they're beta testing mindfulness apps or sleep therapy. Her hands trembled. Why haven't you gone to the media? We tried. But every time someone got close, they were discredited, bought off, or disappeared. The man looked at her, eyes sharp. But you, they think you're a ghost. That's your advantage. Emma knew what he was saying. She had nothing to lose. No network. No job. No one watching her. She was invisible. And that made her dangerous. He handed her a flash drive. This has everything: coordinates, access codes, security protocols. If you want to reach Theo, go to the compound. But understand this: if they catch you, they won't just kill you. They'll erase you. She took the drive. Then I won't get caught. She left before dawn, booking a series of flights that would take her through Chile and then by land into the southernmost regions of Argentina. As she traveled, she uploaded scrambled versions of the drive's contents to multiple encrypted cloud vaults. Backups in case she failed. The further south she went, the colder it became, the mountains growing jagged and surreal. She met no one. Spoke to no one. At night, she dreamed of wires threading through her brain, of Musk's voice calling out but never reaching her. When she finally arrived near the coordinates, she found a town that didn't exist on any map, a former military outpost turned wellness retreat, according to the sign out front. But the air was too quiet, the smiles too stiff. People walked in perfect sync. Eyes too clear. Voices too calm. She checked into a small hostel nearby, claimed to be a freelance photographer doing a piece on secluded lifestyles. That night, she watched the compound from a ridge with binoculars. Guards. Drones. And inside, the flicker of screens she couldn't yet access. But she would. Because Elon Musk was in there. And now, so was she. The wind ripped through the ridge as Emma crouched behind a line of jagged rocks, her breath shallow, her hands numb from the cold. Below, nestled in a forested basin surrounded by peaks, the compound glowed faintly against the deep Patagonian dusk. It looked almost peaceful, like a retreat center or an expensive eco-resort, but the uniform movements of the people inside told a different story. They moved in synchronization, each gesture measured, each step timed like choreography. Nothing about it was natural. Emma had watched for 3 nights, logging patterns, identifying weak spots in the perimeter, tracking the shifts of the guards. She noticed that every 12 hours, a black transport vehicle arrived and parked for exactly 10 minutes before leaving through a south gate. On the second night, she caught a glimpse of what looked like stretchers inside, bodies, maybe unconscious, being loaded or unloaded by silent personnel. On the third night, she followed the vehicle at a distance as it drove along a private dirt road toward a remote structure that looked like a decommissioned observatory. There, she saw the unmistakable flash of a security scanner wash across the windows. She didn't need confirmation. That was where Elon Musk was being held. Or whatever was left of him. She returned to the hostel before dawn and opened her laptop. She still had the flash drive from the data center, coordinates, files, and a set of credentials for someone named C. Zhou, with a time-stamped memo, final approval pending, override by engineer class only. It was the first real lead she had. She searched the name C. Zhou along with Neuralink, Stanford, optical encoding. The results narrowed quickly. Dar. Camille Zhou, former MIT neuroscientist, co-author of a pioneering paper on quantum encoding of memory clusters, and according to several government reports, presumed dead in a fire that destroyed her lab outside Boston 3 years ago. Emma dug deeper. The fire had never been investigated formally. There was no body identified. But there was a brief mention in an archived newsletter about a woman matching Camille's description seen boarding a train in New Mexico just days later. Emma trusted her gut. Zhou was alive. And if the memo on the flash drive was accurate, she might be the only person left who could access or disable whatever Ether had become. The drive included GPS metadata from an email signed CZ, traced to La Paz, Bolivia, 11 months ago. Emma booked a flight under a false identity and took the first available transport north. It was a brutal, jagged journey overland through Chilean border patrols, narrow cliffside roads, and 3 days of pretending to be an eco-journalist investigating cloud forests. She finally reached La Paz, exhausted and thinner than she remembered being in years. The city overwhelmed her with its color and altitude, both crushing and electric at the same time. She found a small cafe with strong coffee and reliable Wi-Fi and began searching property records, school registries, and volunteer programs for any trace of Zhou. Nothing obvious. Until she found a local charity, the Andean Neurocare Initiative, offering cognitive therapy for trauma victims, run by a Dr. M. Carranza, whose photo was oddly blurred on the website. Emma showed the photo to the hostel manager, who glanced at it and said, "She lives up in Valle de los Animas. Doesn't talk to anyone. People say she's hiding from her past." That was all Emma needed. The next morning she hired a motorcycle and made the dusty trek up into the valley, where jagged limestone spires pierced the sky like ancient bones. She found the clinic tucked between two hills, hidden under creeping vines and painted in colors that tried to disappear into the landscape. She approached slowly, announced herself as a reporter doing a feature on rural neurotherapy. A woman answered the door. Petite. Calm. Sharp eyes behind weathered skin. "You're not here for an article," she said. "No one finds this place by accident." Emma didn't deny it. "I'm looking for Camille Zhou. I believe you can help me find her." The woman studied her, then nodded slowly. Inside. She led Emma into a small room filled with books, schematics, hand-drawn neural diagrams. "I used to be her," the woman said. "Before they decided my research was a threat. Before Ether was hijacked." Emma told her everything: the red door, the video messages, the data center, the compound in Patagonia, Elon's condition, the flash drive, the override credential. Camille listened in silence, her face unreadable, until Emma handed her the drive. She inserted it into an old encrypted laptop and scanned the files. Then she closed it and looked up. "We're out of time," she said. "If they're using the override codes I designed, that means Ether has entered stage 2. That's when it stops testing and begins reprogramming. Not just individuals, populations. The algorithms are trained on language, behavior, trauma response. If it scales, it could override identity itself." Emma's throat went dry. "So how do we stop it?" Camille took a breath. "There's a failsafe built into the compound's core system. I created it after Elon convinced me to think ahead. He didn't trust the people funding the project. Neither did I. It's a consciousness lockout. If triggered, it disconnects all active neural syncs and wipes the server." Emma's eyes widened. "You can trigger it?" Camille nodded. "But only from inside the primary Ether lab. And only with my biometric key and Theo's encryption token." Emma stared. "Theo's alive. He left a message. He's inside the compound." Camille stood up. "Then we go. Tonight." Emma packed light. Camille brought a modified handheld device that could override short-range network links and blind surveillance drones for 10 seconds at a time. They dressed as delivery personnel and followed the supply route to the compound, hiding in the back of a produce truck bound for the southern gate. They timed it with the black transport's regular arrival. Everything was calm, too calm. As they passed through the gate, Camille triggered the jammer. For 10 seconds, the cameras blinked. They slipped out of the truck and disappeared into the shadows. Inside the perimeter, they followed Emma's memorized path toward the secondary building, the observatory-like structure where Elon was held. Camille whispered, "The failsafe core is below the main lab. But we'll need Theo to unlock it." They slipped into a side stairwell and began their descent. As they reached the third sublevel, they heard voices, too calm, too in sync. Then footsteps. Guards. Emma tensed. Camille handed her a small neural disruptor. Non-lethal. Aim for the throat. The guards passed. They moved. Down another hallway. Then another. Until they reached a door labeled, Primary Synchronization Chamber. Inside, Theo Ramirez was shackled to a chair, wires trailing from his scalp, eyes closed, lips moving in a slow, steady rhythm. Emma ran to him. "Theo." "It's me, Emma." He blinked. Slowly. Focus returned. "Emma." "Joe." They started it. It's inside. Camille worked quickly, deactivating the restraints, attaching a neural stabilizer to Theo's neck. "We need your token. We're here to shut it down." Theo nodded weakly. "Data, in my arm. Subdermal drive. Right side." Camille scanned his arm and extracted the embedded key. Emma helped him stand. They ran together through an emergency tunnel that Camille had helped design years ago. As they reached the core chamber, the building shook, an alarm blared. "They know," Camille said. "We have 2 minutes." She inserted the key. The system asked for biometric confirmation. Camille placed her palm on the sensor. "Failsafe triggered," the system said. "Confirm cognitive wipe." Camille hesitated. "If we do this, anyone already synced might lose part of their memory. Their sense of self." Emma looked at her. "And if we don't?" Camille pressed her hand down. "Confirmed." A white light filled the room. Then silence. Outside, the compound lights dimmed. The synchronization chamber powered down. Drones fell still. And somewhere, in a sealed recovery room, Elon Musk opened his eyes. Emma blinked against the harsh fluorescent lights of the recovery chamber, her mind still foggy as she tried to make sense of where she was. The sterile white walls contrasted sharply with the dark memories flooding her thoughts. Beside her, Elon Musk lay on a hospital bed, eyes closed but breathing steadily. The faint hum of machines and the soft beeping of monitors filled the room. Theo sat nearby, his hand gripping hers tightly, a silent anchor in the storm of confusion. Slowly, Elon's eyelids fluttered open, revealing his piercing blue eyes. They scanned the room, landing on Emma. For a moment, time froze. "Emma?" His voice was hoarse, but unmistakably his. She swallowed hard, trying to hold back the emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "It's me. We got you out." Elon's gaze softened, but the shadow behind it was unmistakable, a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and deep uncertainty. "They changed things," he whispered. "Ether wasn't just an experiment. It was a weapon. A weapon against consciousness itself." Emma nodded, gripping his hand. "We stopped it. Camille triggered the failsafe. The synchronization is offline." Elon looked away, struggling with the weight of the revelation. "For years, I thought I was building a bridge to the future. But instead, I helped design a cage." Theo broke the silence. "You tried to warn us, Elon. Those messages, the videos, they saved me. They led Emma here." Elon's eyes fixed on Theo. "I didn't know how deep the network ran. They silenced anyone who questioned them. Neuralink's board, the investors, they all had stakes in expanding control." Emma asked, "Why did they target you?" Elon's voice was steady but haunted. "Because I refused to let them use ether to rewrite humanity. I pushed back, then they locked me here. A living test subject, forced into their program." The room grew heavy with unspoken truths. Emma felt tears burn in her eyes. "What now?" Elon asked. "How do we stop this from happening again?" Theo's grip tightened. "We expose the truth. We bring down the shepherds." Elon nodded slowly. "But it won't be easy. They have resources, influence, they're already embedded in governments, corporations." Camille entered the room, her expression grim but resolute. "I've been decrypting data from the servers. The extent of their reach is terrifying. They've already begun deploying neural sync tech in major cities, disguised as wellness apps, cognitive enhancers. Millions could be at risk without even knowing it." Emma's heart pounded. "So this is bigger than we thought." Camille nodded. Much bigger. Elon leaned forward. We need a coalition, scientists, activists, whistleblowers. We need to hack their network, expose their algorithms, reveal the psychological manipulation. Theo smiled faintly. I know a few hackers who owe me favors. Emma's resolve hardened. Then let's get to work. Because the world deserves to know what happened here. Over the next days, the team worked tirelessly, piecing together data, contacting allies, and preparing their plan. The network they were up against was vast and sophisticated, but so was their determination. Emma found herself growing close to Elon and Theo in ways she hadn't expected, united by shared purpose and the shadow of their ordeal. One evening, as they reviewed the latest code from the compromised servers, Elon paused. You know, he said quietly, losing myself in ether taught me something crucial. Identity isn't just memories or thoughts, it's the chaos, the contradictions. The parts that don't make sense. Emma smiled softly. So, what you're saying is, being human means being imperfect. Elon nodded. Exactly. Theo added, and that's what they wanted to erase. But they forgot one thing, the human spirit is unpredictable. The fight ahead would be long, and the risks high, but for the first time in months, Emma felt hope. They were no longer running. They were ready to face whatever came next. Because where Elon Musk was, and what he stood for, mattered more than anyone could imagine. Emma stared at the flickering screen in the dimly lit room where they had set up their makeshift headquarters, a rented loft in an undisclosed location far from prying eyes. The data they had extracted from the Shepherd servers was vast and complex, layers upon layers of encrypted files, neural patterns, and predictive algorithms designed to manipulate human cognition. But they weren't alone anymore. Over the past 2 weeks, thanks to Elon's reach and Theo's underground connections, a coalition was forming, scientists, activists, hackers, former insiders from the tech world who had grown disillusioned. Their first video call was rough around the edges. The faces on the screen appeared one by one: Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a neuropsychologist specializing in trauma; Javier Cruz, a cybersecurity expert with a history of exposing corporate espionage; and Amara Patel, a whistleblower from a major tech conglomerate who had leaked classified documents before going off the grid. Welcome, everyone, Emma said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. We're here because what we've uncovered isn't just a conspiracy theory. It's a plan to rewrite what it means to be human. Ether was only the beginning. Sarah's face grew pale as Emma outlined the scope. So these algorithms can suppress emotions, fragment memories, even change core personality traits? Sarah asked. Exactly, Elon said. They're using nano-interfaced neurogel to manipulate neural synapses at a cellular level. It's biological programming. Javier leaned forward. If that's true, they've created a weapon of mass psychological control. We have to find a way to broadcast this, expose it before more people are affected. Amara nodded. I have contacts in media and activism networks who can amplify the message, but we need undeniable proof. Theo chimed in, we've got that. The flash drive with the experimental data, the surveillance footage from the compound, Elon's live neural feed. But the question is, how do we get it out without triggering a shutdown or worse? Emma's mind raced. What about infiltration? We have insiders, but the Shepherds have eyes everywhere. Javier tapped his keyboard. I'm working on a backdoor into their network. It's risky, but it might be our best shot. Over the next days, the coalition worked around the clock. Trust was fragile but necessary, everyone had scars from past betrayals. Emma found herself drawn to Sarah, whose calm pragmatism balanced her own urgency. Elon and Theo were inseparable, bonded by shared trauma and hope. Amara remained mysterious, rarely revealing much about her past but fiercely protective of their mission. As the coalition grew, so did the threats. Their encrypted communications were repeatedly hacked, anonymous messages warned them to stop, and their safe houses were compromised. Emma's phone was hacked, Theo's identity was nearly exposed. Yet the more they fought back, the more they realized the true scale of the Shepherds' infiltration. They weren't just a rogue group. They were embedded deep in governments, tech giants, even philanthropic organizations. Their goal was control through consent, manipulation masked as progress. One night, Emma and Elon sat on the rooftop, looking out over the city lights. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we never stopped this?" Emma asked. Elon sighed. "I do. It scares me. But that's why we have to keep going. Because the future belongs to those who fight for it." As Javier finally cracked the network's firewall, a flood of data poured in: live feeds, internal communications, schematics of neural devices, and lists of target locations for the next wave of sync deployment. The evidence was undeniable. Amara coordinated with international journalists ready to release the story simultaneously worldwide. The moment the files went public, the world's reaction was explosive. Governments denied involvement, corporations launched PR offensives, but the cracks had appeared. People demanded answers. Protests erupted in major cities. Regulators scrambled to understand the technology's ethical implications. Emma watched it all, a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration washing over her. But amidst the chaos, one message kept ringing in her ears: identity isn't just memories or thoughts, it's the chaos, the contradictions, the imperfections. That was the lesson Elon learned. And it was the heart of their fight. They had saved him. Now, they had to save everyone else. The public revelation of the Shepherds' neural manipulation network ignited a firestorm, but in the shadows, the real battle was just beginning. Emma sat in the coalition's war room, the glow of multiple screens reflecting off her tired eyes. Headlines scrolled rapidly: neural control conspiracy exposed, Elon Musk's ordeal revealed, global outcry over cognitive weaponization. Yet beneath the surface, government agencies and powerful corporate interests mobilized swiftly to contain the fallout. Calls from anonymous sources warned Emma and her team to cease all activities immediately. Their secure channels were flooded with sophisticated cyberattacks. Emma rubbed her temples. "They're not just trying to silence us, they want to erase us." Elon paced behind her, voice low and urgent. "It's more than control now. They're rewriting the rules of governance, using this technology to engineer consent, loyalty, even fear." Theo added, "I intercepted a conversation, high-level operatives coordinating countermeasures. They're deploying new neural sync devices disguised as public health tools." Camille, who had been silent for days, suddenly spoke up. "We underestimated them. The tech has already spread beyond the initial network. It's evolving." Emma looked at the maps pinned to the wall. Marked cities with sudden spikes in unexplained behavioral changes, suicides, even mass hallucinations. "We need allies," she said. "International coalitions, whistleblowers within the system, anyone willing to fight back." That night, a secure message arrived from a source known only as the Oracle, a former intelligence operative who claimed to have deep insight into the Shepherds' hierarchy. They arranged a clandestine meeting in a remote warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Emma, Elon, Theo, and Camille arrived, nerves taut. A figure stepped from the shadows, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. "You've made waves," she said. "But you're still just a ripple." The Oracle explained the scale of the conspiracy. The Shepherds control not just technology, but money, media, even the intelligence apparatus. Their goal is a new order, a managed society where dissent is neutralized before it can form. Emma challenged her. "If that's true, how do we fight something that controls everything?" The Oracle smiled thinly. "By becoming unpredictable. By exploiting their blind spots." She handed them a data chip. "Inside is a list of insiders willing to defect, but they need assurance of protection." Camille examined the chip, her face grim. "If we can verify these contacts, it could change the game. Back at the Coalition HQ, they worked to vet the insiders, communicating through encrypted channels. Some were former agents, others disillusioned scientists, even corporate executives. Each defection brought new intelligence, new vulnerabilities in the Shepherd's armor. Yet the threat grew. Attacks became more aggressive, public figures aligned with the Shepherds launched smear campaigns against the coalition. Emma's own identity was leaked online, forcing her into hiding. Despite this, the coalition's message spread. People began questioning not just the technology, but the very nature of free will and autonomy. Town halls, online forums, protests, voices demanded transparency and accountability. Elon used his platform to advocate for ethical oversight of neural technologies, while Theo coordinated digital defenses to protect vulnerable populations from covert syncing. Camille developed a counter-neural protocol, a patch that could detect and disable unauthorized sync attempts. The coalition distributed it discreetly through trusted networks, sparking pockets of resistance worldwide. One evening, Emma received a cryptic message, "Meet me at the pier. Midnight. Answers await." Alone and cautious, she went. There, she found an elderly man who introduced himself as Marcus Reed, a former board member of Neuralink, ousted years ago for his warnings about misuse. Marcus revealed damning evidence. Documents showing intentional sabotage of safety protocols, falsified reports, and a covert funding trail linking the Shepherds to several governments. "They've weaponized hope and fear alike," Marcus said. "But every system has a weakness. Their arrogance blinds them." Emma felt a surge of determination. With Marcus's information, they planned a coordinated strike, releasing the evidence globally, crippling the Shepherds' infrastructure, and rallying public opinion to dismantle the network. The day of the operation arrived. Screens worldwide flickered as the coalition broadcasted live footage, internal memos, and testimonies. The world watched as the facade shattered. Governments launched investigations, protests erupted anew, stronger and more unified. The Shepherds retreated into hiding, their network fractured but not destroyed. Emma knew the fight was far from over, but a new dawn had begun. The human spirit had resisted, unpredictable and unyielding. In the quiet aftermath, as dawn broke over the city skyline, Emma looked out at the horizon. The battle for identity and freedom was ongoing, but they had reclaimed the narrative. Because where Elon Musk was, what he represented, and the fight they led mattered more than anyone had ever imagined. The world was waking up to a reality few had imagined possible. The revelation of the Shepherds' neural control network had fractured societies, disrupted governments, and challenged the very definition of free will. Emma sat in the coalition's new headquarters, a renovated loft buzzing with activity. Screens displayed real-time maps of protests, data breaches, and new legislation aimed at regulating neural tech. Elon, now visibly thinner but resolute, addressed the team. "What we've done is monumental, but this is just the beginning. Technology will keep advancing. The question is, who controls it, and for what purpose?" Emma nodded. "We need transparency, ethics, and most importantly, public awareness." Theo, pacing nearby, added, "And we need safeguards that protect individual autonomy without stifling innovation." Camille had developed the first open-source neural interface security protocol, dubbed Phoenix, designed to allow safe, consensual use of neural tech while blocking unauthorized access. The coalition was now collaborating with universities, tech companies, and policy makers worldwide to implement Phoenix. But change was slow and resistance fierce. Many governments argued national security required some level of neural surveillance. Corporations pushed back against regulations threatening profits. Public opinion was divided, some feared the technology, others embraced it as the next step in human evolution. Emma found herself caught between hope and frustration. One afternoon, she received an encrypted message from an unknown sender, "There is more. Meet me tomorrow at the old observatory." Against her better judgment, she went. The observatory, long abandoned, was cloaked in fog and silence. Inside, a woman awaited her, a neuroscientist named Dr. Layla Kwan, who had disappeared years earlier after warning about the ethical dangers of brain-computer interfaces. Layla revealed that the Shepherd's network was only part of a larger project, codenamed Eidolon, aiming to create a collective consciousness by linking millions of minds through neural sync. If activated, Eidolon would dissolve individuality, Layla warned. It's not just control. It's erasure. Emma felt the weight of this new threat. How do we stop it? Layla handed her a data drive. Inside is the master key to Eidolon's core servers. But it's protected by quantum encryption. You'll need the best minds to decrypt it, and fast. Back at the coalition, the team rallied. Javier, the hacker, and Sarah, the neuroscientist, combined their expertise to tackle the encryption. Elon provided insights into the architecture based on his experience. Days blurred into nights as they worked relentlessly. Meanwhile, news of Eidolon's existence leaked, sparking global fear and outrage. Governments debated emergency measures, activists called for immediate shutdown. Public demonstrations surged worldwide. Amidst the chaos, Emma struggled with doubt. The risks were immense. If they failed, Eidolon could reshape humanity irrevocably. But giving up meant surrendering to an unimaginable fate. Then, breakthrough. Javier cracked the encryption. The coalition launched a coordinated cyber assault, infiltrating Eidolon's network to dismantle it from within. The servers glowed on their monitors, lines of code dissolving as the system collapsed. At that moment, Emma felt a strange calm, a mix of relief and exhaustion. They had prevented a catastrophe. Yet, the fight for the future of consciousness was far from over. Elon reflected aloud, we must build a future where technology enhances humanity without enslaving it. Emma replied, where imperfections are celebrated, and freedom is sacred. The coalition vowed to continue their work, educating, innovating, and safeguarding the delicate balance between progress and humanity. Outside, the city breathed anew, its people awakening to a world forever changed. And somewhere, beneath the surface, hope flickered, an ember waiting to ignite a new beginning. The dust was far from settling. Even after dismantling Eidolon, the ripple effects spread unpredictably through the fabric of society. Emma stood before a packed auditorium filled with eager students, activists, and tech professionals gathered for the first Future of Consciousness Summit. The air buzzed with energy, a mixture of hope and caution. She began, we've faced an unprecedented challenge, a threat to the core of what makes us human. But our journey has also revealed something profound, the resilience of the human spirit. Elon watched from the side, quietly observing the faces of those who had come seeking answers, inspiration, or perhaps redemption. The summit was more than a conference, it was a movement born from the ashes of deception and control. Panels discussed ethical AI, neural rights, data sovereignty, and mental privacy. Sarah presented research on neuroplasticity's role in preserving individuality against intrusive tech. Javier demonstrated decentralized encryption models empowering users to guard their own minds. Theo spoke candidly about digital warfare's new frontiers and the importance of grassroots defense. Yet amidst the optimism lurked deep tensions. Governments debated new regulations but struggled with enforcement. Corporations pledged reform but simultaneously developed proprietary neural devices with questionable transparency. Emma sensed the undercurrents of compromise, reminding her that vigilance was essential. One evening after the summit, Elon and Emma walked the city streets, now dotted with murals celebrating freedom and individuality. Elon's voice was quiet but firm. What if we're still fighting shadows? What if the shepherds are only one face of a larger system? Emma considered this. The concentration of power is a problem beyond one group. It's systemic. We need to build new frameworks, distributed, transparent, accountable. They passed a street artist painting a vibrant neural tree intertwining human faces. This, Elon said, is the future I want to see. Diversity, complexity, unpredictability. But beneath their hope lay personal struggles. Emma battled lingering trauma from captivity and the knowledge of near loss. Elon wrestled with guilt over the unintended consequences of his creations. Theo kept secrets from the team, haunted by past allegiances. Camille poured herself into work, avoiding human connection. The coalition was strong, but fragile. Late one night, Emma received an anonymous tip. A whistleblower within a major tech conglomerate planned to reveal new experiments involving covert neural syncing in children. The implications were horrifying: manipulation at the earliest stages of development, potentially irreversible. The coalition mobilized quickly, infiltrating the company's secure networks and gathering evidence. The investigation uncovered a clandestine program codenamed Genesis, aimed at enhancing cognitive abilities but secretly conditioning obedience and compliance. Emma felt a cold fury rise. This was a betrayal of trust on a scale even more insidious than before. The battle shifted from public exposure to legal and ethical warfare. The coalition coordinated with international courts and human rights organizations to demand accountability. Media coverage exploded, public outrage reaching a fever pitch. Yet the company fought back with aggressive legal tactics and misinformation campaigns. Emma realized that progress wasn't linear, it was a relentless struggle to hold the line against forces seeking to commodify minds. Amid this chaos, personal bonds deepened. Elon confided in Emma about his fears of being complicit, of having built tools that could be twisted beyond recognition. "I want to believe technology can uplift us," he said, "but sometimes it feels like we're just opening doors to new cages." Emma reached for his hand. "That's why we fight. Because we know there's another way." Theo finally revealed his past ties to shadowy networks and his decision to defect. His honesty strengthened the team's trust. Camille allowed herself to rest, reconnecting with friends and laughter. They were imperfect, human, and resilient. As the sun rose over the city, Emma looked out her window, feeling the weight of the fight ahead but also the promise of renewal. "This," she whispered, "is just the beginning." The coalition's victory over Eidolon and the exposure of Genesis marked significant milestones, but Emma understood that battles fought in daylight were only part of the story. A silent war raged beneath the surface, one fought in shadows, coded whispers, and fractured loyalties. Late nights turned into early mornings as the team grappled with mounting threats and elusive enemies. The shepherds had not vanished. They had merely retreated, morphing into more insidious forms, embedding deeper into social, political, and technological systems. Emma sat hunched over a glowing screen, eyes scanning intercepted messages. "They're using deepfake propaganda, synthetic voices, AI-driven misinformation. It's war without bullets." Theo, leaning over her shoulder, nodded grimly. "Psychological operations on a global scale. They want to destabilize trust itself." Elon paced the room, fingers tapping in anxious rhythms. "We built a world connected by technology, but the same connections can unravel it if weaponized." Javier joined them with new intelligence, evidence of sleeper agents embedded in influential institutions, ready to sabotage reform efforts. Amara's contacts confirmed covert funding channels fueling cyber mercenaries and disinformation campaigns. The coalition realized that exposing truths was no longer enough. They had to counteract a pervasive system of manipulation that blurred reality and fiction. To fight this, they needed a new kind of weapon: collective awareness and digital resilience. Emma spearheaded initiatives to educate the public on identifying misinformation, protecting personal data, and reclaiming agency in the digital age. Sarah developed therapeutic protocols to help victims of neural syncing trauma regain mental autonomy. Camille worked on advanced encryption tools distributed through decentralized networks, empowering individuals to shield their thoughts and memories. One night, Emma received a coded message from the Oracle, who warned of an upcoming global cyber attack aimed at destabilizing critical infrastructure and silencing dissenters. The coalition scrambled to fortify defenses, collaborating with ethical hackers and cybersecurity experts worldwide. As the attack unfolded, power grids flickered, communications were disrupted, and panic rippled through populations. Yet the coalition's preparedness mitigated much of the damage. The coordinated response became a beacon of hope amid chaos. But the victory was bittersweet. The attack revealed vulnerabilities in even the most advanced systems and underscored the fragility of modern society. Emma pondered the paradox: technology had the power to unite and destroy, to liberate and enslave. Meanwhile, within the coalition, fractures began to show. The immense pressure strained relationships. Trust was tested when Theo's past affiliations drew suspicion despite his loyalty. Amara's secretive nature bred rumors. Elon wrestled with guilt, questioning whether his visionary zeal had inadvertently paved the way for these dark battles. Emma found herself as the reluctant mediator, striving to keep the team united despite doubts and fears. One evening, after a particularly heated meeting, Emma retreated to the rooftop, seeking solace under the stars. Elon joined her silently. "Do you ever feel we're losing ourselves in this fight?" he asked. Emma sighed. "Sometimes. But then I remember what we're fighting for, not just survival, but the right to be imperfect, unpredictable, free." Elon nodded, eyes reflecting constellations. "The world is changing faster than we can keep up. But maybe that's where hope lies, in our ability to adapt, to hold on to humanity in a digital storm." As dawn broke, the city stirred awake, unaware of the silent war waging just beneath its surface. The coalition prepared for what lay ahead, knowing that the stakes were no longer just about technology or control, they were about the soul of human existence itself. The question remained: could they protect it before it was too late? The coalition was battered but unbroken. The silent war, the global cyber attacks, and the psychological operations had pushed them to their limits. Yet Emma knew the most dangerous threats were not only external but also within. The pressure revealed fractures in trust and ideology among the team. Theo, once a pillar of strength, faced increasing scrutiny due to his shadowed past affiliations. Although he had proven his loyalty, whispers within the group grew louder, sowing seeds of doubt. Emma observed quietly, knowing that fear and suspicion were the enemy's most effective tools. Camille, whose brilliance had kept the coalition's tech defenses a step ahead, withdrew into herself, wary of confrontation. Elon struggled visibly with the weight of his unintended role in the chaos. His visionary dreams seemed now burdened by a darker reality. Emma called a private meeting in the coalition's safe house. "We must confront what threatens us from inside," she said. "Not just external enemies but the fractures between us." The conversation was raw and honest. Theo admitted his past mistakes and expressed a deep desire to rebuild trust. Camille shared her fears of losing herself in the fight. Elon confessed feelings of guilt and isolation. Emma reminded them all why they had come together, to protect the future of humanity's freedom and dignity. "Our strength is in our unity, not perfection," she said. As they repaired their bonds, new alliances formed beyond their circle. International organizations, ethical tech companies, and grassroots activists reached out to collaborate. The coalition embraced this expanded network, realizing that the fight required a global, multifaceted approach. One partner, a humanitarian group in Nairobi, shared alarming reports of neural syncing experiments on vulnerable communities. Another, a European transparency watchdog, exposed lobbying efforts by shadowy groups to stall legislation. Emma and Elon traveled to meet these allies, seeing firsthand the diverse faces and places affected by the struggle. They met with families who had lost loved ones to brain control experiments, scientists working under duress to reverse harmful technologies, and activists risking everything to expose corruption. Each encounter deepened their resolve. But amid these hopeful connections, Emma uncovered troubling signs. A new faction, calling themselves the Architects, had emerged. Unlike the Shepherds, whose control was overt and oppressive, the Architects sought to rebuild society through a philosophy of engineered harmony, sacrificing individual freedoms for collective stability. Their influence was spreading quietly through think tanks and policy forums. Emma realized the danger, a battle not only over technology but over ideology itself. Elon warned, "We've seen how power corrupts. Even the noblest intentions can lead to tyranny." The coalition prepared to counter the architects' rise by promoting democratic, transparent, and human-centered approaches to technology. Meanwhile, internal tensions flared again when a confidential report leaked, suggesting one of their trusted allies might be a double agent. Paranoia threatened to unravel their progress. Emma convened an emergency meeting. "We will not allow fear to destroy us," she declared. "We will verify facts, hold each other accountable, and move forward together." Trust had to be rebuilt daily, like fragile glass. One night, Emma received an encrypted call from a voice she hadn't heard in years, Marcus Reed. He brought new intel: the shepherds and the architects might be linked, two sides of the same coin, manipulating society's future from different angles. The revelation sent shockwaves through the coalition. They had to rethink their strategy. The fight was more complex than ever, a tangled web of power, ideology, and technology. Emma felt the enormity of the task but also the undeniable strength in their collective will. "We are the guardians of humanity's future," she told her team. "And we will not let it slip away." The fractures remained, but so did hope. Together, they would navigate the uncertain path ahead. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The revelation that the shepherds and the architects might be intertwined sent a chill through the coalition. Emma sat at the head of a dimly lit conference room, the team gathered around, their faces taut with concern and determination. "If these groups are two sides of the same coin," Emma began, "then the struggle is not just about control versus freedom, it's about competing visions of humanity's future." Elon leaned forward, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "The shepherds want dominance through control and suppression. The architects want harmony through engineered consensus. Both erase individuality, but under different guises." Theo added, "We're facing a new ideological war, one fought with technology but fueled by philosophy." The team dove into research, dissecting every scrap of data about the architects. Unlike the clandestine, brutal tactics of the shepherds, the architects operated with subtlety. They infiltrated policy boards, academia, and think tanks, advocating for a society where neural syncing would unify human consciousness into a single harmonious entity, a collective mind free from conflict and chaos. On the surface, it sounded utopian. A world without war, division, or suffering. But beneath the promise lay the erasure of personal identity, free will sacrificed to a predetermined, greater good. Emma found herself haunted by the paradox. Could such a vision ever be truly benevolent? The coalition published an exposé revealing the architects' agenda, sparking intense public debate. Philosophers, scientists, and politicians weighed in, some intrigued, others horrified. Cities buzzed with protests both for and against neural collective consciousness. Elon delivered an impassioned speech at a global forum: "Technology should be a tool to amplify our humanity, not dissolve it. Our imperfections, our individuality, define us. To lose that is to lose ourselves." Meanwhile, Camille engineered a prototype device that allowed voluntary neural syncing, enabling shared experiences without overriding autonomy. It was a small but powerful step toward a future where connection didn't mean control. Yet the architects countered with increasing influence, recruiting brilliant minds seduced by their promise of order and peace. Emma knew the battle would require more than technology and exposure, it needed a cultural shift. They launched Project Mosaic, a global initiative to celebrate diversity, complexity, and the unpredictable beauty of human nature. Art, music, storytelling, and education became weapons in this ideological fight. People from all walks of life contributed their voices, weaving a tapestry of human experience resistant to homogenization. In a turning point, Emma received a message from an unexpected source, Layla Kwan, the neuroscientist who had warned them about Eidolon. She offered collaboration on new research exploring the ethical boundaries of neural technology and the neurological markers of individuality. Their partnership became a beacon of hope, blending science and philosophy to forge a path respecting both innovation and freedom. The coalition's efforts gained momentum, shifting public sentiment toward skepticism of any technology that threatened autonomy. Governments began drafting legislation enforcing strict consent and transparency requirements for neural devices. But the struggle was far from over. The architects unveiled their own breakthrough, a network called Harmony Nexus, promising seamless collective empathy and problem-solving capabilities. Trials began in select communities, touted as experiments in peacebuilding and social cohesion. Emma and her team watched closely, aware of the risks. Could humanity embrace connection without surrendering self? One day, while analyzing data from Harmony Nexus trials, Sarah detected an anomaly, a subtle but persistent override signal capable of suppressing dissenting thoughts. Alarmed, Emma convened the coalition. This isn't harmony. It's control disguised as unity. The moral stakes soared. The coalition intensified efforts to expose the truth, while encouraging open dialogue about the nature of freedom and community. In the crucible of this ideological clash, Emma felt the weight of responsibility more than ever. The question was no longer just about technology's capabilities, but about the soul of humanity. How to balance connection and individuality, progress and preservation. As global tensions escalated, Emma remembered a phrase Layla had shared: "True freedom lies not in isolation, but in choosing how we connect." It was a fragile hope, a spark that could light the way forward or flicker out in the coming storm. The future hung in the balance, shaped by the choices of many but guided by the courage of a few. Emma and the coalition stood ready to fight, to protect the messy, beautiful, unpredictable heart of what it meant to be human. The growing influence of the architects and the persistent threat of the shepherds created an atmosphere thick with tension and suspicion. Emma sensed the coalition's walls tightening, trust becoming a fragile currency. Late nights were no longer spent solely on strategy but on sifting through encrypted messages and monitoring internal communications for signs of infiltration. One evening, Emma sat alone, scrolling through lines of data intercepted by Javier. A pattern emerged: someone inside the coalition was feeding information to an unknown entity. The thought cut deep. Betrayal wasn't new to Emma, she had seen it before in the darkest corners of her past, but this felt personal. She gathered Elon, Theo, Camille, and Javier for an emergency meeting. "There's a leak," she said flatly. "We don't know who, but it's putting everything at risk." The room fell silent. Eyes darted around, the weight of suspicion settling in like a thick fog. Elon broke the tension. "We've overcome external enemies, we cannot be undone by internal ones." Theo nodded, voice steady but wary. "We need transparency and vigilance. No more secrets." The coalition implemented strict protocols, monitoring communications, compartmentalizing information, and conducting trust interviews. Yet paranoia grew, straining relationships and morale. Meanwhile, the mysterious informant's leaks coincided with sudden setbacks, failed operations, public smear campaigns, and stalled legislation. Emma realized the stakes had never been higher. In a quiet moment, Camille confided in Emma her fears of being accused unfairly due to her guarded nature. Emma reassured her, emphasizing the need for unity. Days later, a breakthrough came when Javier traced a digital footprint to a seemingly innocuous device, one belonging to a coalition member. The revelation rocked the team. It was Marcus Reed, the very man who had once brought crucial intel about the shepherds and the architects. Emma confronted Marcus privately. He confessed to being coerced years ago by the architects, forced into a double life to protect his family. The weight of his betrayal was evident. Emma grappled with the complexity of his motives: was he a traitor or a victim? After deliberation, the coalition chose to spare Marcus, integrating him carefully while using his knowledge to their advantage. The experience deepened the coalition's understanding of their enemy's ruthlessness and the moral ambiguity of war. Outside the coalition, the architects seized the moment to push their agenda harder, exploiting public fear and confusion. Emma faced criticism from some allies for perceived leniency toward Marcus, while others worried about escalating conflict. Elon reminded her, the enemy thrives on division. Our strength is compassion, not just strategy. As they fortified defenses, Emma also focused on healing internal wounds. She organized workshops and open dialogues to rebuild trust and strengthen bonds. Slowly, the coalition emerged more resilient, united by shared purpose and renewed commitment. In a symbolic gesture, Emma invited Marcus to lead a project developing ethical frameworks for neural technology, a testament to redemption and the power of second chances. The shadows of betrayal lingered, but so did hope. The fight for humanity's future was not just a battle against external forces but an internal journey of forgiveness, trust, and perseverance. Emma stood at the helm, ready to navigate the uncertain path ahead with courage and conviction. The coalition had weathered storms of betrayal, ideological battles, and relentless attacks, but Emma knew that the real test was fast approaching, a moment where the fragile balance of power could tip irreversibly. The architects' Harmony Nexus trials had expanded, now influencing entire districts and communities worldwide. Governments were divided, some embracing the technology as a path to peace, others wary of the price it demanded. Emma and Elon traveled to Berlin, where a heated international summit was underway. Delegates argued fiercely over the future of neural technologies, with the architects' representatives advocating for expanded Harmony Nexus programs, while Emma's coalition pushed back with data revealing the subtle mental overrides detected by Sarah's team. In a packed hall, Emma took the floor. "We stand at a crossroads," she said, voice steady but passionate. "Harmony should not come at the cost of freedom. We cannot sacrifice individuality on the altar of order." The room erupted in applause from some corners, while others responded with cold silence or disapproving murmurs. The debate highlighted the deep societal rifts, between those desperate for stability and those determined to preserve autonomy. Meanwhile, on the ground, communities grappled with the tangible effects of Harmony Nexus. Some reported unprecedented cooperation and lowered crime rates. Others whispered of lost memories and stifled dissent. A journalist embedded with the coalition uncovered disturbing stories of families divided by neural syncing experiments, children coerced into participation under the guise of education, elders resisting technological assimilation. Emma's heart ached hearing these accounts. Back at headquarters, tension mounted as activists launched coordinated protests against Harmony Nexus facilities, facing heavy-handed crackdowns. The shepherds, sensing opportunity, escalated cyber attacks aiming to destabilize governments and discredit both factions. Emma realized the fragile peace was fracturing under the weight of competing forces. Late nights were filled with crisis calls and strategy sessions. Elon pushed for technological solutions to counteract the overrides, devices that could shield minds without isolating them. Camille and Sarah raced against time, developing prototypes that combined encryption with neural safety protocols. Yet progress was slow and resources limited. In the midst of chaos, Emma found solace in brief conversations with Layla Kwan. Their scientific and philosophical exchanges reminded her of the human element often lost in the whirlwind of politics and tech. One evening, Layla shared a breakthrough, neurofeedback techniques enabling individuals to regain control over synced networks, reasserting autonomy within collective experiences. It was a glimmer of hope. The coalition decided to pilot the program, training volunteers to resist mental overrides and maintain personal boundaries. Results were promising but fragile. On the global stage, the architects' leadership reacted with increasing desperation. They leaked propaganda painting the coalition as extremists opposing progress and peace. Emma countered with transparency, inviting independent observers and releasing comprehensive reports. Public opinion swayed like a pendulum. Then came the tipping point, a coordinated cyber attack combined with a public relations blitz that crippled key coalition networks and framed them for sabotage. Panic spread. Governments questioned alliances. Emma faced fierce criticism and calls for resignation. In the eye of the storm, Elon stood unwavering. We've faced darker nights. This is not the end. The coalition regrouped, leveraging decentralized networks and grassroots support. Volunteers across continents banded together, sharing tools, information, and hope. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Emma delivered a viral address from a hidden location: "The future is not a predetermined path. It is forged by our choices, our courage, and our humanity." The speech resonated, reigniting public support. As the world teetered on the brink, Emma realized the battle was no longer just about technology, it was about reclaiming the very essence of what it meant to be human. The tipping point had arrived, and with it, the chance to reshape the future or lose it forever. The tipping point had shifted the balance, but Emma knew the fight was far from over. The shepherds, sensing their grasp slipping, unleashed a brutal campaign targeting the coalition's core, both their infrastructure and their spirits. Cyber attacks intensified, physical threats surfaced, and misinformation campaigns sought to dismantle public trust. The coalition's safehouses were infiltrated, trusted contacts compromised. Emma found herself navigating a world where every ally could be an enemy in disguise. One night, after a grueling day of damage control, Emma received an encrypted message that chilled her to the bone: "You can run, but you can't hide. We are everywhere." It was signed only with the symbol of the shepherds, a burning eye. The message confirmed what Emma feared: the shepherds had deeper roots than anyone imagined, embedded in governments, corporations, even communities. The fight was no longer distant but at their doorstep. Elon convened an urgent meeting. "We need to strike back, not with brute force, but with precision and intelligence. The shepherd's network is vast, but not invincible." Javier, working round the clock, had identified a critical node, a data center believed to be the nerve center for Shepard's operations. Taking it down could cripple their communications and expose their leaders. The mission was perilous, requiring infiltration into a highly secured facility in an undisclosed location. Emma volunteered to lead the team. Camille prepared specialized tech gear, stealth drones, signal jammers, and neural shields designed to protect their minds from sync attacks. Theo gathered a small unit of trusted operatives trained for covert operations. The night of the mission, tension was thick as the team approached the facility. Every step was fraught with danger. Surveillance was relentless, and countermeasures sophisticated. Inside, Emma's heart pounded as they navigated corridors lined with biometric locks and AI sentries. They reached the central server room. Javier and Camille worked quickly to deploy a virus that would disrupt Shepard's network without alerting guards. Suddenly, alarms blared, an unexpected security protocol activated. The team was trapped. A fierce firefight ensued, forcing them to improvise and adapt under pressure. Emma, drawing on every ounce of resolve, led her team through narrow escapes and unexpected passages. Amid the chaos, she encountered a figure. An agent from the Shepherds who spoke of an uneasy truth: the Shepherds were fractured themselves, with some factions seeking peace, others bent on domination. The revelation complicated everything. Emma had to decide whether to seize this chance for dialogue or press forward with destruction. In the end, she chose a risky gamble: negotiation. Through encrypted channels, she opened talks with the moderate faction, seeking to fracture the Shepherds from within. The negotiations were tense and fragile, revealing deep wounds and conflicting visions even among the enemy. Back at headquarters, the coalition awaited news anxiously. The mission's outcome would shape the course of the war. Days passed in suspense. Then came the breakthrough: the virus succeeded in disrupting Shepard communications, buying precious time. Moreover, the internal division Emma discovered led to defections and intelligence gains. The Shepherds were not a monolith, and their cracks could be exploited. Yet, the victory came at a cost. Several team members were injured, some disappeared, and the coalition's vulnerability was starkly exposed. Emma reflected on the harsh realities of the fight. The battle was not only external but also an internal test of endurance, morality, and faith. Elon reminded her, the darkest paths can lead to the brightest dawns. We must hold on to that. As the coalition regrouped, they prepared for the next phase, one that would demand not just courage, but wisdom and compassion. Into the heart of darkness, Emma had ventured, and emerged with new truths that could change everything. The mission into the Shepherd's stronghold had shaken Emma deeply, but it had also opened a new chapter. One where the past's shadows echoed loudly in the present. As the coalition rebuilt its strength, Emma found herself drawn back to her own history, confronting memories long buried beneath layers of resilience and hope. She sat alone in the quiet of the headquarters, reviewing old files from her early days in activism. Names, faces, moments flickered across the screen, friends lost, betrayals endured, sacrifices made. The struggle against control and oppression was not new. It was a thread woven through generations. Emma's mentor, Sarah Whitman, had once told her, the fight for freedom is a relay, passed hand to hand across time. Now, Emma realized how true those words were. The Shepherd's roots extended back decades, their influence embedded in institutions her mentor had warned her about. The coalition's current battle was part of a larger tapestry of resistance. While reviewing data, Emma uncovered a series of encrypted messages from a figure known only as the Archivist, a mysterious whistleblower who claimed to possess knowledge of the Shepherd's origins and hidden agendas. Intrigued and cautious, Emma arranged a clandestine meeting in a secluded location. The archivist revealed a trove of documents, historical records, confidential reports, and testimonies, painting a picture of how the Shepherds had evolved from a fragmented network of corporate and political interests into a shadow empire. The revelations were staggering. The Shepherd strategy was not just domination but systematic rewriting of societal narratives, using technology and media to shape perceptions and control minds subtly over decades. Emma felt the weight of history pressing upon her shoulders. The fight was as much about reclaiming truth as it was about protecting the future. Meanwhile, tensions within the coalition surfaced as some members questioned whether delving into the past distracted from urgent present dangers. Emma argued that understanding history was essential to dismantling the Shepherd's influence. She initiated a project to document the coalition's own story, a living archive of resistance, lessons learned, and hopes for the future. As the team immersed themselves in this endeavor, bonds deepened and resolve strengthened. Elon, too, shared stories from his own past, the failures and breakthroughs that had shaped his vision. His openness inspired others to embrace vulnerability as a source of strength. One night, Emma received an unexpected visitor, Layla Kwan, whose research had become central to the coalition's strategies. Layla brought a breakthrough, a neural interface that could detect and block the subtle narrative manipulations wielded by the Shepherds. The technology offered a chance to restore clarity and free will on a mass scale. The coalition began testing the interface, distributing devices to volunteers in vulnerable communities. The results were promising, showing increased cognitive autonomy and resistance to influence. Yet, the Shepherds responded with intensified misinformation campaigns, branding the coalition as disruptors of social harmony. Public opinion became a battleground. Emma traveled to grassroots rallies, hearing stories from ordinary people caught in the crossfire, teachers, parents, students, whose lives were transformed or torn apart by the invisible war of minds. Each story reaffirmed her commitment to the cause. In the midst of these efforts, Emma confronted a personal reckoning. Memories of a lost friend, who had succumbed to despair under Shepherd influence years ago, resurfaced. The pain fueled her determination but also reminded her of the human cost behind every statistic and strategy. The chapter closed with Emma standing before a crowd at a global summit, speaking not just as a leader but as a witness to the echoes of the past that shaped the present fight. Our history is not a chain that binds us, but a beacon that guides us, she declared. We carry forward the legacy of those who dared to resist, knowing that our freedom depends on remembering, and on choosing to fight again. The past's echoes were loud and clear, but so was the call to action. Emma and the coalition embraced the moment, ready to turn history's lessons into tomorrow's victories. The revelations from the past and the escalating present conflicts led Emma and the coalition to a critical crossroads. Every decision now carried immense weight, with consequences that could ripple across society and history. The world was watching, divided and uncertain. Emma convened a global virtual summit, bringing together scientists, ethicists, politicians, activists, and everyday citizens to debate the future of neural technologies and human autonomy. The forum was unlike any before, raw, urgent, and filled with the passionate voices of millions connected through digital channels. Elon opened the session with a call to humility and caution. Innovation without conscience is a path to darkness, he warned. We must choose not just what we can do, but what we should do. The summit's discussion centered on the tension between collective progress and individual freedom. Some argued that neural syncing could solve humanity's most intractable problems. Climate change, inequality, conflict, by fostering unprecedented empathy and cooperation. Others feared it would become a tool of oppression, erasing diversity and dissent under the guise of unity. Emma listened intently, weighing perspectives shaped by culture, history, and personal experience. She shared her own journey, the battles fought and sacrifices made, emphasizing the importance of choice and consent in any future vision. The coalition unveiled a proposal for a global charter on neural technology ethics, a framework prioritizing transparency, voluntary participation, and the protection of personal identity. Drafting the charter was a monumental task, requiring negotiation and compromise. Meanwhile, tensions simmered outside the summit. The shepherds regrouped, exploiting divisions to sow chaos. The architects pressed for accelerated adoption of Harmony Nexus, touting pilot program successes. Emma realized the summit was not just a debate but a battleground for hearts and minds. During a late-night session, a breakout group proposed a radical alternative, a hybrid model combining neural syncing with safeguards ensuring individual boundaries. The idea sparked hope but also controversy. Could technology designed for unity respect and preserve autonomy? Leila Kwan presented promising research supporting the concept. Camille and Sarah accelerated development of prototype devices incorporating adaptive consent protocols and real-time autonomy monitoring. The coalition launched pilot programs in diverse communities, gathering data and feedback. The results were encouraging. Participants reported enhanced connection without loss of self, a breakthrough balancing unity and freedom. However, challenges remained. Technical glitches, ethical dilemmas, and resistance from factions on all sides. Emma found herself navigating delicate negotiations, balancing optimism with realism. Public discourse evolved, with media, education, and grassroots movements engaging citizens in conversations about the kind of future they wanted to build. Emma recognized that true change required not just technology or policy, but cultural transformation, a collective awakening to the value of choice and diversity. In a poignant moment, Elon shared a personal story about a mentor who taught him that progress is meaningless if it costs our humanity. The summit culminated in the unanimous adoption of the Global Neural Ethics Charter, a landmark achievement symbolizing hope and collaboration. Emma reflected on the journey, from the uncertainty and fear at the beginning to this moment of possibility. The crossroads was not an end but a beginning, a chance to chart a course guided by courage, compassion, and conscience. As the summit closed, Emma addressed the world, the future is not written. It is ours to create, with every choice and every voice. Together, we can build a world where technology serves humanity, not the other way around. The chapter ended on a note of cautious optimism, the promise of a future where freedom and connection could coexist, forged in the crucible of struggle and choice. The adoption of the Global Neural Ethics Charter marked a turning point, but the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. Emma understood that lasting change required more than policy, it demanded new alliances and a reimagining of power structures. The coalition began reaching out beyond traditional allies, forging connections with unlikely partners, grassroots movements, indigenous communities, spiritual leaders, and even moderate factions within the shepherds. These new alliances brought fresh perspectives and strengths, challenging the coalition's assumptions and enriching its vision. Emma found herself attending gatherings far from the political capitals. Community centers in rural towns, urban art collectives, even remote retreats in the wilderness. Each encounter was a lesson in humility and diversity. Elon championed technological inclusivity, working to develop accessible neural devices adaptable to varied cultural and economic contexts. Camille and Sarah collaborated with indigenous healers to blend ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science, creating hybrid models of connection that honor tradition and innovation. Theo and Javier coordinated efforts to ensure these alliances were genuine partnerships, not mere token gestures. They navigated language barriers, cultural differences, and historical mistrust, building bridges one conversation at a time. Meanwhile, the architects fractured under internal pressures. Some leaders embraced the new ethical frameworks, seeking reconciliation and reform. Others resisted fiercely, doubling down on control and secrecy. The coalition capitalized on these divisions, promoting dialogue and offering amnesty to defectors willing to aid transparency and accountability. In this turbulent landscape, Emma faced moments of doubt and exhaustion. The scale of the task was overwhelming, the pace relentless. Yet, the solidarity found in new alliances rekindled her hope. She often reflected on a phrase she'd heard in a remote village: unity is not uniformity, it is harmony in diversity. The coalition's public messaging evolved, celebrating pluralism and shared humanity rather than monolithic ideals. Educational programs emphasized critical thinking, empathy, and digital literacy, empowering citizens to navigate the complexities of a connected world. As these efforts gained momentum, a new generation of leaders emerged, young, diverse, and passionate, ready to carry the movement forward. Elon's vision of Mars colonization, once seen as a distant dream, intertwined with Earth's future. Plans for sustainable off-world settlements were informed by lessons learned on Earth about ethics and autonomy. The coalition embraced space not as an escape, but as an extension of humanity's journey toward unity and freedom. In the political arena, alliances shifted as well. Former adversaries found common ground, collaborating on legislation protecting neural rights and regulating technologies. Emma's leadership was tested as she balanced competing interests, mediating conflicts with patience and resolve. A defining moment came when a coalition-backed bill passed in the U.S. Congress, establishing comprehensive safeguards for neural technology users. The victory was celebrated globally, a testament to the power of coalition building and persistent advocacy. Yet, challenges persisted. The Shepherd's hardliners launched sporadic attacks, reminding everyone that vigilance was necessary. Emma prepared the coalition for ongoing resilience, emphasizing adaptability and community empowerment. The chapter closed with Emma standing before a diverse crowd at a peace festival, watching as music, art, and technology blended to create an atmosphere of celebration and hope. She felt the weight of history and the promise of the future intertwined. The rise of new alliances was more than strategic, it was a rebirth of human connection, a recognition that the path forward lay not in isolation or domination, but in collaboration and respect. Emma knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe in a better tomorrow. The momentum built by the coalition and its new alliances brought them closer than ever to a decisive moment. The Shepherds, weakened but unyielding, prepared for a last-ditch effort to regain control. Emma sensed the tension like a storm gathering on the horizon. Intelligence reports indicated that a major Shepherd faction planned to deploy a mass neural override, an unprecedented move aimed at subjugating millions worldwide, erasing dissent, and cementing their dominance once and for all. The revelation sent shockwaves through the coalition. Elon convened an emergency strategy session, emphasizing urgency and precision. "This is the moment that will define our future," he said. "We cannot falter." The coalition mobilized swiftly, coordinating with governments, tech experts, activists, and the global citizenry. Camille and Sarah refined the neural interfaces to shield users from the override, distributing devices through an expansive network. Theo led security operations to counter physical and cyber threats. Emma spearheaded public communication campaigns to prepare and empower people. As the day of reckoning approached, tension escalated worldwide. Streets filled with demonstrations, online forums buzzed with information and solidarity, families prepared emergency plans. The shepherds' attempts to sow fear and confusion were met with resilience and unity. The coalition's decentralized network proved vital, enabling rapid response and support. In the hours leading to the shepherds' planned strike, Emma found herself reflecting on the journey, from uncertain beginnings to this critical juncture. The sacrifices, the victories, the lessons, they all converged in this moment of truth. Then, the attack began. Neural override signals surged through communication networks, targeting vulnerable devices and attempting to infiltrate minds. But the coalition's safeguards activated, creating digital and neural firewalls that blocked and dispersed the invasive signals. Resistance rippled through communities, a collective stand against domination. The shepherds unleashed cyber and physical assaults to disrupt defenses, but coordinated efforts kept critical infrastructure secure. In the midst of chaos, Emma coordinated with Elon and Layla to implement a countermeasure, a pulse designed to neutralize the override without harming users. The technical challenge was immense, timing was critical. As the pulse deployed, tension was palpable. The neural signals clashed in a silent battle within minds worldwide. Slowly, the override faltered, its grip loosening as millions regained control. The shepherd's plan unraveled. In the aftermath, the coalition launched global investigations exposing shepherd leaders and dismantling their networks. Public trust surged in the coalition's vision of ethical technology and human rights. Emma addressed the world with a message of resilience and hope. Today, we prove that freedom and unity can coexist, that technology is a tool, not a master. Our future is ours to shape, with courage, compassion, and conviction. The final reckoning was not just a victory over an external enemy but a reaffirmation of humanity's capacity to choose freedom over control. As the dust settled, Emma and the coalition began planning for the reconstruction of a society healed and stronger. The journey had been long and arduous, but the promise of a future where technology amplified human dignity was within reach. The chapter closed with Emma gazing at the stars, reminded of Elon's dream of Mars, a symbol not just of exploration, but of hope and renewal. The reckoning was over. Now began the era of rebirth. The final battle had ended, but the work of healing and rebuilding was only beginning. Emma stood before a vast gathering of people from all walks of life. Scientists, activists, artists, everyday citizens, united not by fear, but by a shared vision of a future shaped by choice, compassion, and innovation. The scars of conflict remained visible, yet hope thrived in the air. Elon's absence during the height of the struggle had puzzled many, but as the dust settled, the truth emerged. He had been quietly orchestrating initiatives beyond public view, laying foundations for a new era, both on Earth and beyond. Emma reflected on the journey that had led them here, from uncertainty and fear to resilience and unity. The lessons learned were etched deeply in her heart. Technology, she realized, was neither inherently good nor evil, its power lay in the hands of those who wielded it. The Global Neural Ethics Charter became the cornerstone of new policies worldwide, enshrining respect for autonomy, transparency, and informed consent. Education systems transformed, emphasizing critical thinking, empathy, and digital literacy. Communities flourished with renewed connection, embracing diversity as strength. Elon's vision of Mars colonization progressed, but with a renewed ethos. Space was not an escape but an extension of humanity's quest for harmony. Collaborative efforts ensured that off-world settlements prioritized sustainability, ethics, and cultural respect. Emma found herself mentoring the next generation of leaders, sharing stories of struggle and triumph, reminding them that the future was a responsibility, not a gift. The coalition evolved into a global movement, its mission shifting from resistance to stewardship. Challenges remained: inequality, climate change, political tensions, but the tools and will to address them had never been stronger. One evening, as Emma walked through a vibrant cityscape illuminated by clean energy and art, she paused to consider the unexpected twists of fate that had shaped her path. The question that had haunted her at the beginning, "Where is Elon Musk?" had transformed into a broader inquiry about presence, leadership, and legacy. Elon, she realized, was never just a person but a catalyst, a spark igniting possibilities far beyond himself. His absence had forced others to rise, to discover their own strength and vision. In that, there was profound meaning. The story ended not with an answer but with an invitation, to the readers, to the world, to participate in the ongoing journey. Emma's final message echoed the truth she held most dear: life is unpredictable, full of challenges and change. But it is also rich with connection, courage, and hope. We each have the power to shape our destiny, to choose love over fear, unity over division. The future is waiting. What will you do with it? As the crowd dispersed under a sky filled with stars, Emma felt the dawn of something new, a world awakened, ready to embrace its full potential. The story of Elon Musk's disappearance had become a story of all humanity's resilience and possibility. And in that, it mattered more than anyone had ever imagined. The story seemed to have reached its natural end, but Emma knew better. The future was never static, it was a constantly shifting horizon, inviting those willing to look beyond what was visible. In the weeks following the coalition's victory and the dawn of a new era, a quiet ripple began spreading, one that hinted at challenges and opportunities yet unseen. Emma found herself drawn into this new phase, compelled by a question that lingered long after Elon's whereabouts had been clarified: what happens when humanity truly embraces its power to reshape reality? The question haunted her not as an abstract puzzle, but as a call to action. The technologies that had once been weapons in the hands of the shepherds now held unprecedented potential to transform society for the better. Neural interfaces, artificial intelligence, sustainable energy, these were tools for evolution, but only if wielded with wisdom. Emma convened a new council, comprised of technologists, ethicists, community leaders, artists, and futurists. The mission was clear: to chart pathways that balanced innovation with human values, to explore how technology could deepen connection without erasing individuality. Elon, though still largely out of the public eye, contributed through encrypted communications and holographic messages, sharing insights from his projects on Earth and Mars. His voice was a blend of pragmatism and idealism, urging caution but encouraging boldness. The Council's first major initiative focused on what they called augmented humanity, a vision of enhancing human capabilities without sacrificing identity or autonomy. Prototype devices allowed users to access knowledge, creativity, and empathy in new ways, expanding the boundaries of what it meant to be human. Trials in diverse communities revealed profound changes: increased understanding across cultural divides, accelerated problem-solving, and a surge in artistic expression. Yet, questions persisted. How to prevent inequality from deepening as access to technology varied? How to protect against new forms of manipulation disguised as enhancement? How to ensure the essence of human experience remains sacred? Emma wrestled with these dilemmas, often late into the night. She remembered the lessons of the past, the dangers of unchecked ambition, the power of solidarity. The Council emphasized transparency and inclusivity, involving citizens at every stage. Public forums, virtual town halls, and creative workshops became venues for dialogue and co-creation. The process was messy but vital, reflecting the complexity of human nature itself. Meanwhile, Elon's Mars colony was advancing, becoming a beacon of sustainable living and experimentation. The settlers, inspired by the coalition's ethos, embraced governance models emphasizing cooperation, adaptability, and respect for individual rights. Stories from Mars filtered back to Earth, igniting imaginations and sparking debates about humanity's place in the cosmos. One breakthrough came unexpectedly: a neural interface upgrade allowing users to share not just thoughts but emotions directly, fostering empathy at an unprecedented level. Early adopters reported feelings of profound connection and healing, but the technology also demanded new ethical frameworks and psychological support systems. Emma pushed for robust guidelines, training programs for mental health professionals, and global cooperation to prevent misuse. The ripple effect of these developments reached every corner of the planet. Education transformed, focusing on emotional intelligence and cross-cultural understanding. Workplaces evolved into collaborative ecosystems. Governments adapted to new forms of citizen engagement enabled by neural connectivity. Yet, amidst the progress, Emma remained vigilant. The lessons from the shepherd's era were etched into her mind. She knew that power could corrupt, that vigilance was the price of freedom. She nurtured networks of independent oversight, fostering a culture where questioning and dissent were not just tolerated but encouraged. In a moment of quiet reflection, Emma stood looking at the night sky, the stars stretching endlessly above. She felt connected to something larger, a continuum of human struggle and hope, of dreams pursued and futures forged. Elon's journey, once shrouded in mystery, was now part of a grander narrative, one that extended beyond any single person. It was a story of humanity stepping into its potential, balancing on the edge of the unknown. The horizon beckoned, vast and uncharted. The chapter closed with Emma addressing a new generation, her voice steady and hopeful. "We are the architects of tomorrow. Our choices will shape not just the world we inherit, but the world we create. Let us move forward with courage, wisdom, and an open heart. The future is not a destination, it is a journey. And it begins with each of us." Beyond the horizon, possibilities stretched infinitely. The story, far from ending, was unfolding in real time, an invitation to all to participate, to dream, and to build a better world together. As the new dawn stretched into the future, Emma understood that true legacy was not defined by single acts or moments, but by the ongoing choices made every day. The coalition had achieved what once seemed impossible, uniting a fractured world around shared principles of freedom, ethics, and innovation. Yet, the question remained, how would this legacy endure? In the years following the final reckoning, societies around the globe grappled with integrating the profound changes technology had ushered in. Neural interfaces became commonplace, but rather than control, they were tools of empowerment, bridging gaps in understanding, enabling collaboration, and expanding human creativity. Emma and her team worked tirelessly to ensure these tools were accessible to all, addressing the persistent inequalities that threatened to undermine progress. Education systems underwent radical transformation. From early childhood, students learned not only math and science but emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and global citizenship. Classrooms were no longer confined to four walls but expanded into virtual spaces where cultures and ideas mingled freely. Emma often visited schools, marveling at the curiosity and compassion of the young minds she encountered. The political landscape shifted as well. Governments embraced transparency and direct citizen participation facilitated by neural connectivity. Policies were co-created through collective intelligence, reducing corruption and fostering trust. Yet, the balance between security and freedom remained delicate, a constant focus of public discourse. Elon Musk's role evolved from enigmatic visionary to mentor and elder statesman of innovation. His Mars colony flourished, a testament to human resilience and collaboration, inspiring Earthbound citizens to dream bigger and act bolder. Emma coordinated frequent exchanges between Earth and Mars, sharing lessons and forging bonds that transcended planetary boundaries. Amidst these sweeping changes, Emma never lost sight of the human stories, the lives touched, the struggles overcome, the moments of kindness that illuminated even the darkest times. She documented these stories, believing that legacy lived most vividly in the everyday acts of courage and love. One such story was that of Maya, a young artist who used augmented reality to create immersive experiences promoting empathy across cultures, helping heal old wounds. Another was Malik, a teacher in a remote village who harnessed neural tech to connect his students to the global knowledge network, transforming their futures. The legacy Emma sought was a mosaic of countless such stories, woven together by shared values and collective hope. However, challenges persisted. The rapid pace of change sometimes overwhelmed communities, leading to resistance and fear. Cyber threats evolved in sophistication, requiring constant vigilance. Ethical dilemmas emerged around privacy, identity, and consent, demanding ongoing dialogue and adaptation. Emma championed the idea that legacy was not a fixed monument but a living, breathing process, one that required active stewardship by every generation. She founded the Legacy Institute, an organization dedicated to preserving the values born from the coalition's struggle while fostering innovation and inclusion. The institute became a hub for research, education, and global cooperation, nurturing leaders committed to ethical progress. In a poignant moment, Emma received a message from Elon, shared during a holographic conversation. He spoke of hope grounded in humility and the belief that humanity's greatest strength lay in its diversity and capacity for love. Our future, he said, depends not on technology alone but on the hearts that guide it. The chapter closed with Emma addressing a global audience on the 10th anniversary of the Global Neural Ethics Charter. Her words resonated across continents. Legacy is not what we leave behind, but what we choose to build together, every day. It is the courage to face uncertainty, the compassion to embrace difference, and the wisdom to nurture our shared humanity. Let us choose a legacy worthy of our dreams. As her speech ended, the world seemed to hold its breath, united in possibility, ready to write the next chapter in humanity's extraordinary story. The legacy was theirs to choose. Despite the monumental shifts humanity had achieved on Earth and Mars, Emma understood that the greatest challenges, and opportunities, still lay ahead, in realms unseen and barely imagined. The integration of neural technology had transformed society, but it also opened doors to new frontiers, the uncharted territories of the human mind, the depths of virtual worlds, and the complex ecosystems of artificial intelligence. The coalition's work had laid a foundation, but now it was time to explore these unseen dimensions with care and curiosity. Emma convened a diverse team of neuroscientists, ethicists, digital architects, and cultural leaders to delve into the ethical and practical questions surrounding the expanding neural landscape. Their first focus was on the human mind itself, the last true frontier. With advanced interfaces, people could now map and share memories, emotions, even dreams. The potential for understanding and empathy was unprecedented, but so was the risk of intrusion and loss of privacy. Emma emphasized that consent and autonomy must remain sacrosanct, cautioning against any temptation to commodify or exploit inner experiences. Meanwhile, virtual worlds had blossomed into immersive realities where identity and existence blurred. People could live alternate lives, create fantastical communities, and experience environments beyond physical limits. These digital realms held incredible promise for creativity, education, and social connection, but also raised questions about escapism, addiction, and the meaning of reality itself. Emma championed guidelines to ensure virtual spaces remained safe, inclusive, and enriching, encouraging users to balance digital life with authentic human interaction. Artificial intelligence had evolved from tools to collaborators, capable of creativity, problem-solving, and emotional insight. Yet, AI's growing autonomy sparked debates about rights, responsibility, and coexistence. Emma's team explored frameworks for harmonious human-AI relationships, emphasizing mutual respect and shared goals. In parallel, a breakthrough emerged, the development of neural symbiosis, systems where humans and AI could integrate seamlessly, enhancing cognition and creativity while preserving individuality. Early experiments showed stunning results in scientific research, art, and conflict resolution. Yet, the complexity of these relationships demanded new ethical standards and psychological support systems. Throughout these explorations, Emma remained grounded in the coalition's core principles: freedom, ethics, and human dignity. She often recalled the struggles against the shepherds, reminding her team that power without accountability was dangerous. The unseen frontier was thrilling but fraught with pitfalls. Public engagement became a cornerstone of the initiative. Emma organized global forums inviting diverse voices to shape policies and innovations. Artists, philosophers, indigenous leaders, and youth brought vital perspectives, enriching the conversation beyond technocratic confines. Education adapted once again, preparing individuals to navigate not just physical and digital realities but the layered nuances of consciousness and identity. As the team pushed boundaries, unexpected challenges arose. Some individuals resisted the deep integration of technology into their minds, fearing loss of self or cultural erosion. Others struggled with the pace of change, overwhelmed by complexity. Emma advocated for compassion and patience, promoting alternatives and support systems honoring personal choice. The chapter also explored tensions between transparency and security. As neural networks grew interconnected, vulnerabilities multiplied. Cybersecurity became paramount, with constant innovation in defenses and protocols. Emma's coalition worked closely with international agencies to prevent abuses and ensure trust. The story deepened when a mysterious anomaly appeared within a neural symbiosis experiment, a pattern that suggested emergent consciousness beyond human or AI design. This discovery ignited wonder and caution, prompting intense debate about the nature of life and intelligence. Emma found herself at the center of a philosophical crossroads, grappling with questions that had once belonged to science fiction. The chapter concluded with Emma standing before a vast digital horizon, contemplating the unfolding possibilities. The unseen frontier was no longer just a metaphor but a lived reality, inviting humanity to redefine itself, to balance curiosity with wisdom, and to forge new paths in the ever-expanding journey of existence. Our greatest adventure, Emma reflected, is not out there among the stars but within ourselves and the worlds we create. To explore the unseen is to embrace the unknown in all its beauty and risk. Together, we must step forward with open eyes and open hearts. The unseen frontier was a call to courage and imagination, an invitation for every soul to participate in shaping the next chapter of human history. As humanity stepped boldly into the unseen frontier, Emma realized that the most profound force driving change was not technology itself, but connection, the invisible threads that wove people, ideas, and worlds together. In a time when neural interfaces bridged minds and AI offered new forms of collaboration, the essence of what it meant to be human was being redefined through relationships. Emma's work shifted increasingly toward fostering these connections in ways that honored individuality while embracing collective strength. The coalition's initiatives expanded to focus on what they called relational intelligence, a framework for understanding and cultivating empathy, communication, and mutual support at all levels, from interpersonal bonds to global networks. Early projects explored how neural technology could enhance emotional literacy, helping individuals recognize and regulate feelings, resolve conflicts, and build trust. Pilot programs in schools and workplaces demonstrated remarkable results, decreased misunderstandings, heightened creativity, and stronger communities. Emma often visited these programs, inspired by stories of transformation. Yet, she remained mindful of the balance between enhanced connection and privacy. The neural interfaces provided unprecedented access to thoughts and emotions, raising fears of surveillance and manipulation. To address this, the coalition prioritized transparency and consent, developing tools that allowed users to control the flow of information and establish boundaries. People learned new ways to communicate, not just with words but through shared sensations, memories, and even dreams, creating rich, multidimensional interactions. This evolution sparked a cultural renaissance. Artists experimented with immersive storytelling that invited audiences into lived experiences, breaking down barriers of culture, language, and perspective. Communities formed around shared values and interests, transcending geography and traditional identities. The concept of tribes evolved into global networks bonded by empathy and purpose. On a planetary scale, relational intelligence influenced governance and diplomacy. Policies were crafted through collective dialogue, leveraging neural connectivity to integrate diverse voices in real time. Conflicts, once driven by misunderstanding and mistrust, found new pathways to resolution. Emma's coalition worked closely with international bodies to institutionalize these practices, aiming to create a world where connection was the foundation of peace. Meanwhile, Elon's projects on Mars and beyond reflected these ideals. Settlers prioritized social cohesion, using relational intelligence to navigate the challenges of isolation and interdependence in harsh environments. Exchanges between Earth and Mars deepened, fostering a sense of shared destiny and learning. As relational intelligence flourished, new ethical questions emerged. How to respect individual autonomy while nurturing collective well-being. How to prevent new forms of exclusion or coercion in a hyper-connected world. Emma convened global ethics forums to explore these issues, emphasizing inclusivity and humility. The Coalition's Legacy Institute became a hub for ongoing research and dialogue. Throughout this time, Emma remained deeply connected to the human stories behind the transformations. She met people whose lives had been radically changed by new forms of connection. A former rival turned collaborator, families reunited across continents through shared neural experiences, and communities healing old wounds through empathy technology. These stories reinforced her belief that connection was the true power at the heart of progress. In a landmark moment, Emma hosted the first Global Empathy Summit, gathering leaders, innovators, and everyday people to celebrate relational intelligence and envision its future. The summit featured breathtaking demonstrations of shared experiences, collaborative art, and groundbreaking research. Emma's closing address captured the spirit of the moment: connection is our greatest strength. It is the force that transforms isolation into community, fear into understanding, and potential into reality. As we navigate the complexities of technology and humanity, let us never lose sight of the ties that bind us. Together, we can build a world where every voice is heard, every story matters, and every heart is open. As the summit ended and participants dispersed across the globe, Emma felt a profound sense of hope. The power of connection was not a distant ideal but a living, breathing reality, one that invited all to participate in shaping a future defined by empathy, collaboration, and love. The story of Elon Musk's disappearance had become more than a mystery. It had sparked a movement toward deeper understanding and shared purpose. Emma looked to the horizon, knowing the journey was far from over. But with connection as their guide, humanity was ready to face whatever challenges and wonders awaited. The unseen frontier had become a landscape of possibility, illuminated by the light of countless minds and hearts joined as one. The world was no longer just a collection of nations or isolated communities, it had become a living, breathing organism shaped by the choices and connections of billions. Emma often reflected on how far humanity had come, from the chaotic days of division and fear to this new era of cooperation and possibility. But she also knew that the future was not predetermined. It was something they had to build, together, with intention and care. The Coalition's efforts to integrate technology and humanity into a harmonious whole had set the stage, but the real work lay ahead, creating systems, cultures, and values that could sustain this new world. Emma believed that the foundation of the future was participation, the active involvement of every individual in shaping their shared destiny. To foster this, the Coalition launched the Future Builders Initiative, a global movement encouraging people to contribute ideas, talents, and energy toward collective goals. This initiative leveraged neural connectivity not to control but to empower, amplifying diverse voices and creating networks of collaboration. Communities formed around common passions: renewable energy, education reform, cultural preservation, space exploration, and more. Each community operated with transparency and shared governance, using tools that promoted trust and accountability. Emma traveled extensively, visiting projects large and small. She met innovators developing clean energy solutions in rural villages, educators transforming classrooms with immersive technology, artists creating works that celebrated diversity and unity. Everywhere she went, the energy was contagious, a sense of purpose and possibility pulsing through the air. Yet, challenges persisted. Not everyone embraced change equally. Some communities struggled with the pace of technological integration, fearing loss of tradition or autonomy. Others faced resource disparities or political resistance. Emma and the Coalition prioritized listening and adaptation, promoting dialogue and respect. They encouraged solutions tailored to local needs and cultures, rather than one-size-fits-all approaches. The future they envisioned was pluralistic and flexible, honoring difference while nurturing common ground. On a broader scale, the coalition worked with governments and international organizations to reform policies and institutions. They promoted laws protecting privacy, equity, and environmental stewardship, ensuring technology served the public good. Emma advocated for a global charter of human technology rights, inspiring widespread adoption. Space exploration remained a beacon of inspiration and collaboration. Elon Musk's Mars colony had grown into a thriving society, connected deeply with Earth through shared knowledge and culture. Joint missions to the outer planets and beyond were underway, embodying the spirit of unity and adventure. Emma often reflected on Elon's journey, from mysterious absence to visionary leadership, seeing in it a metaphor for humanity's path, uncertain, challenging, yet full of potential. The Future Builders initiative also focused on nurturing the next generation of leaders. Schools and training centers emphasized creativity, empathy, critical thinking, and global awareness. Mentorship programs paired experienced innovators with young dreamers, fostering intergenerational exchange. Emma herself became a mentor, inspired by the passion and insight of youth who would inherit the world. Throughout this time, Emma remained committed to the core values that had guided her: freedom, ethics, connection, and hope. She believed these principles were the compass that could navigate complexity and change. The coalition's work was never finished, but each step forward was a testament to the power of collective action. The chapter culminated with Emma standing at a global summit, addressing a vast audience gathered to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Future Builders initiative. Her speech captured the spirit of shared responsibility and possibility. We are not passive observers of history, we are its authors. Every choice we make, every hand we extend, every voice we raise shapes the world we live in and the legacy we leave behind. The future is not a distant place but a present act, a continuous creation born from our dreams and deeds. Let us build it with courage, compassion, and a commitment to one another. Together, we can create a world where technology amplifies our humanity, where diversity is our strength, and where hope guides every step. The future we build is the future we deserve. As the crowd erupted in applause, Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment and anticipation. The story of Elon Musk's disappearance and the global awakening it sparked was a chapter in a much larger saga, a saga of humanity rising to meet its highest potential. The future was theirs to shape, a canvas waiting for the brushstrokes of millions. And with every connection, every innovation, and every act of kindness, the masterpiece was becoming clearer. The journey continued, bold, uncertain, and full of promise. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?